All right. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. Today, we're going to be learning about how to build resumes. This is a resume building workshop, and it's called How to Buff Up Your Resume. My name is Matthew Kapolchan, but you can call me Matt. I'm an intern at Carison, and I'm going to be helping out with this presentation. This is just a reminder that this presentation is brought to you by the New York State of Opportunity, Office for New Americans, and of course, Carison. So, how to buff up your resume. Resumes, they're really tricky. Sometimes when you want to put all the experience that you've ever done into one page, it can be really difficult for anyone. So let's not do it alone. Let's go over some pointers together that can help get you your next job interview. But before we try to write a resume, we have to know what a resume is. So let's talk about that. A resume is basically a summary of who you are and what you can do, and usually helps companies to do things like understand your qualifications, understand if you're right for the job, ask you questions that are specified to the role that you're applying for, and understand how you will interact and benefit the rest of the employees. So, for example, usually in companies, they have a gap that they're looking for. They will look through your resume and see if you have the necessary skills to fill that gap. And then they'll also look for additional things such as extracurriculars to show that you'll mesh well with the population that is at the company. This is my friend Bob. So today we're going to be helping him make his resume for his next job interview. So making a resume is really easy. I know many people say it's difficult, but very first step is whether you have a personal computer or you could access it. The very first step is to open a file that you can type on, such as Microsoft Word or Google Docs. Don't have access to a computer? That's totally fine. Many local libraries allow you to use desktop computers for free, and there are free apps like Google Docs that you could use on your phone and even on your tablet. So now that we've opened our file and we want to start our resume, the very first thing we should ask ourselves is what are we going to put on top? Well, my friend here should include important information at the top, such as his full name, his address, his phone number, and his email. Notice that even though his name is Bob, he has to type out his full name, SpongeBob SquarePants. Then, like 123 Bikini Bottom, that could be like a street and a city, and then the ocean would be like a state. Then you also have to make sure that your phone number and your email are correct. This should be at the very top and it should be the first thing to grab the attention of whoever is looking at your resume. Notice also that we don't need to put a picture on our resume. Although it's really common in Latin America to put pictures on resumes, in the US, that isn't really a concern because oftentimes they try to avoid pictures so that people don't get discriminated. So next, we're going to talk about what should Bob put in the middle. This is also a really important part. This is where we put all of the experiences and the jobs that we've done in the past. It should include important information such as experiences relevant to the job or education that you've taken if it's applicable. Each experience that you put should include the job title, the location of the company, the duration of the position, and the task completed as a position. In addition to this, all tasks should begin with a strong action word. So let's look at an example. So my friend here was a fry cook, a professional jellyfish catcher, and a pizza delivery boy. So his resume can look like this. You see at the very top, we have our heading with our full name, our address, our phone number, everything. And under that, we have a subsetting that says work experience. Now we put what we've done. So there we can see senior pizza delivery boy. You could see that he did this role from June 2012 to present. So he's still a pizza delivery boy. The Krusty Krab would be the company that he works at. And then Bikini Bottom in the ocean would be the address where he works. That would be like a city and a state. Now, this is really important. This is the part where we talk about what we did while in the role. He says here that he delivered pizzas punctually to nearby areas, and he formulated routes that were most efficient depending on the number of pizzas to be delivered. So the reason why we put these here is to describe what we did while we were in the role. We want to show people that while we were doing this role as a pizza delivery boy, we learned many valuable skills that can be applied elsewhere. What were these skills? Skills were things like punctuality. See, delivered pizzas punctually. And then another important word there is efficient. He was efficient while he delivered all of these pizzas. It shows like a potential employee that okay, this is someone who is both punctual and efficient and can apply these skills to my new position. Next, we have professional jellyfish catcher. This was from January 2006 to May 2010. So the company here would be Jellyfish Company, and then the address, Jellyfish Fields, Bikini Bottom, the ocean. Now we're talking about what we did. Caught jellyfish to be sold in the national market. See, strong action word, caught. And then what did we do with jellyfish? We sold them. Also taught professional and recreational classes to the public. We have a teaching aspect there. Taught and caught are both strong action verbs and shows the positions and what we did while we were that position. Finally, we have main fry cook from December 2000 to August 2005. Again, company, address, Krusty Krab, Bikini Bottom. And then we talk about what we did. Cooked Krabby Patties in a high pressure environment, produced about 100 meals per day, learned secret menu recipes to customize food to each customer's palate. You see, we don't just say what we did. We don't just say cooked food. We actually talk about what we did and we make it sound nice. We use good words like high pressure environment. It shows the employer that, okay, this is someone who knows what it's like to be under pressure and works well under pressure. And then like learning secret menu recipes. It shows that you're someone who adapts to change, who can learn something new. Employers look at these and they try to match you up with a position in a company that uses these skills. All right, so that was the middle of our resume. Now let's talk about the end. So the end should include anything else that you've done that it might not always be professional. It could be things like organizations, maybe skills, any other relevant information that you want to put to present to this company for your job interview. It uses the exact same format as before with like title, location, dates, and task completed. So here, let's look at some more examples. So Bob here put his extracurriculars, education, and anything else relevant. So the very first heading we have there is skills. We can see that Bob is cash register proficient. He's knowledgeable of the Bikini Bottom area. He's comfortable in a teaching setting, and he's a business owner. In a way, the skills section is kind of like a summary of all of your work experiences. It shows you what have you learned, what were the most crucial skills that you learned while you were in these positions. So example, comfortable in teaching setting, we saw that Bob was a teacher. He taught people how to catch jellyfish. And so he's comfortable in a teaching setting because he did that. He's also cash register proficient because he was a fry cook. He knows how to use a cash register. That's an important skill to have in like a restaurant setting. He's also knowledgeable of the Bikini Bottom area from delivering pizzas everywhere. He knows different routes and he knows how to get there. Next, we put organizations. So these can be things like for the average person, it could be things like if you're in a choir, if you're in a street cleanup group, if you're a neighborhood watch, anything like these could be organizations they are part of. It shows people and shows the employers that you're not only about work, you're also extracurricular. They don't want you to be a robot. They want you to be someone who's social and knows how to interact with people and knows how to be in an organization. So here, let's look at that. It says Jellyfish Society. He's been active since February 2009. And we can see that he met with other jellyfish enthusiasts. He discusses news about jellyfish economy. He views new technology presented by advertisers. What he's doing there is showing that he's social. He's been around people and he knows how to like have a discussion, how to debate, how to talk to other people, how to get along. These are all things that are important in the culture of a company. Same thing for book club. So he was in the book club active since May 2015. And you could see there that they would meet at a local library to discuss new books and invite authors to meet with them and share perspectives. So this is really, again, really important. A really important social skill shows people that you know how to be among others, and you know how to be part of a team and how to coordinate events. These are all good skills to have that you want the employer to see. Finally, we have an education tab. So this is where like high school diplomas, maybe associate degrees, college degrees, any kind of education, like trade certificates as well, any kind of education would go in this section. So we see high school diploma from January 2002 to May 2009. We talk about what school he went to, Mrs. Pulse High School, where was it located, Bikini Bottom, the ocean. And now we're going to talk about what's relevant. Things like cumulative GPA to show that he kept on top of his work. He was involved in other social aspects like Interact Club and Jellyfish Club. And finally, like what classes or courses did he take? Like what is your education based on? What are the basic courses that you learned from a very long time ago? What did you start with learning? And that's where you'd put that at the very bottom of your resume. Okay, that finishes the very first section. Now we've put all of our information onto one page. Does anyone have any questions about that or anything?
No, I'm
No?
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're gonna move on to the next section. So this is part two. Now it's time to organize. So now we have a solid start. So we've begun to organize the information on our resume. Now we need to make it look nice and make it organized in a way that it makes sense to the employers and it's easy to find the information that they're looking for. The information on your resume should always be listed from newest to oldest with the present positions at the very top. So take a look at this. So before we had main fry cook at the very top, but we began that from December 2000 to August 2005. The employers, of course, that experience is relevant, but the employers would rather see what you've been up to recently and what is your most recent skills that's so fresh in your mind and you can apply most readily. So instead of putting that at the top, we put senior pizza delivery boy because that's his present job. He still works there, and that's where his skills mostly lie right now. It's where he knows what to do best. So always arrange from present jobs to oldest, newest to oldest. Okay. And it's also important to know what role you're applying for and then to organize your hands to fit that role. So let's take a look at what that might look like. This is where we looked at different job descriptions. So, for example, if you're applying for a teaching or academic job that prioritizes something like education, that's important to put your education tab to very top. Remember, this is what they'll be looking for when you tell them you want to teach. They want to see what can you teach, what did you learn, and what can you apply. So here you'll notice that education and skills are now to the top rather than work experience. And now one of the skills has been changed. It has been changed to comfortable in teaching setting instead of it's been put to the very top. And then also cash register proficient has been changed to experience creating study plans because cash register proficient, if you're applying to a teaching job, wouldn't really apply to anything. It's kind of like just useless space. So instead, we'll change that to something else, like experience creating study plans, because that's probably something he did while he was teaching people how to catch jellyfish. On the other hand, if you want to apply for a job that requires work experience, such as like a cashier or a manager, then work experience should now be at the very top. So in this case, placement of skills is less important, but always try to read the job description and understand what the employer is searching for. Then list all of your skills that can be applied to the position. You could also remove positions that are really old or that aren't really as relevant to the current role. So that's how it works for that. But now we're done with this section. So now we've put down our skills and we've organized our resume to be in a logical order. We looked at job description and we know what they're looking for. We made it easy for them to find. So now our final step is to make it look pretty. So does anyone have any questions up until now? No? All right, then we'll move on. So now let's make it look pretty. This is more or less how we can remove empty space from a resume. So how do we remove this empty space? Well, there's several ways, but first, let's look at the resume and identify where empty spaces are. So this is what we have so far. We've put everything onto a page, and this is the final result. So we can see that there's empty spaces to the top, to the left, to the bottom, to the right. Basically, everything is kind of fixed to the center of the page, and there's a bunch of empty space all around. Hence, we should edit the margins and the spacings between text so that the text fills up more of the page. So what are margins? This is something that's a bit strange, so we've also put the definition in Spanish as well. Margins are spaces around the page, and they can be edited using the tabs above the document. So here we use a narrow setting width. The very first thing that we did was look at the tabs and we clicked layout. Then we scrolled over to margin and we pressed narrow. We tried to get those margins as small as they could possibly be. A second kind of unusual word is line spacing. This is the distance between different text lines. There's also a Spanish definition, so it's easier to understand. So now this can be edited using the tabs as well above. At the very top, you can see there's a little tab there with two arrows going up and down between the lines. If you shorten this distance, then the text will be closer together. If you increase it, the text will be a bit more spread out. It depends on how much stuff you have on your resume. So you really have to play around with it and see what looks best on your own resume with your experience. So it'll result in this. So now our resume looks a lot wider. There's less empty space at the top, the bottom, and the left. This was done by editing the margins to 0.5 and increasing the space between headings to 9 points, which I showed you all in the last tab. So now our only job is to remove the white space to the right. This is where we kind of have to get creative. So what we can do in this case is extend the dates, because we see our dates all the way to the left or in the center of the page. We can extend them all the way to the right instead of keeping them in the middle. That'll look like this. And we could also increase our text size so it fills up more space. Let's compare the final and the initial product. You see how the resume takes up more of the page and it looks more full? This is exactly what we want. We want our resume to be as full as possible so that it looks more professional and also gives the illusion that we have more skills. You know, if there's less space, employers might think, it seems like they don't have that much experience because it looks so tiny. So this is what a professional resume would look like when you fill up all the spaces and you have a good layout. So taking these tips and applying them to your own resume can make you look more professional and organized, which will give you an edge when applying to your next job. Okay, so we're now at the final point. Does anyone have any questions so far? Are we okay? Okay, all right. So final points, let's wrap it up. So a big one is don't lie. So employers have experience interviewing potential employees and can often tell when you're lying in the interview. Remember, employers do so many interviews, probably every day or every week. They can tell when people get nervous and when they start to stutter and they're like, I'm not sure. This is a good sign that you probably don't know what you're talking about. And most times employers have your resume right in front of them and they can ask you about certain things on your resume. If you get caught lying, it can make you seem dishonest and untrustworthy. And not only might it stop you from getting that job offer, but they can also block you from future applications because they think that you're not honest. And this is not what we want. We want employers to hire you ASAP. Another thing is to keep your font simple. So fonts can be a good way to express yourself, but it should be simple and easy to read. For example, using Times New Roman or Arial. These are also options at the top of your tab. And you can change the font size to be something that's simple and easy to read. Instead of using your font to express your personality, use the interview afterwards to show it off. Finally, you should try to be yourself. So if employers wanted to hire a robot, they would honestly just buy one. So it's important to be yourself on both your resume and your interview. Employers often want a diverse group of people that work hard. If you act naturally and do your best, your chances of employment are much better. If you're a fun person, you like to make jokes, you like to be active in the company, you like to show that you appreciate being around people, do that in the interview. It's important that you just be your true self so the employers know who you are and they know if they want you in their company or not. All right. So that's the end of the resume building side. So does anyone have any questions so far about anything? If not, then we'll move on to the very last
I don't know
section.
who.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe. mm, for example, for my job, so I do bartending. So, and I have one employee for 3 years. So I needed, for example, I'm looking for a new job for bartending. So I just put it my experience with bartending, or I need put it another employees.
No, you could put it under work experience. So if you said you're a bartender, under work experience here, you could put bartender. If you did for like 3 years, you could say like from 2019 to 2022 over here. And then you could also say, um, you could say where you worked. So wherever you bartended, you'll put it under the line over here. And then you can also talk about um, what you did as a bartender. You can talk about like if you made certain drinks, if you closed shop, you can talk about interacting with customers on a daily basis, and you really talk about what role you did as a bartender. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So in that case, we're gonna move on. So now we're at the final step. So now we're gonna try to formulate some experience. So just because an experience doesn't directly apply to another job doesn't mean that it isn't still applicable. So for example, let's look at a construction worker. So when looking at a construction worker, some qualities or some rules that you have is you work for a long period of time. This is applicable to like a storekeeper or a security guard role because remember, they'll be on their feet and they'll be up and about and they'll have to work for a very long period of time. So if you were a construction worker, this is one of the roles that you could emphasize in your resume. Another rule that construction worker would have is that they're careful and they care about safety. This could be applicable if you want to apply to like a safety inspector job. Additionally, construction workers also know how to use different tools for different jobs. And this could be applicable to like a designer or a carpenter job. Next, let's look at a cashier. So some skills that cashiers have is that they're good at keeping track of money, which is applicable to a bank job. They're responsible for opening and closing store, which makes it applicable to like a manager position. And they're observant to shoplifters, which is applicable to security guard position. So for example, if you want to list this on your resume, you could say cashier, where you worked, how long you worked there, and then these are 3 skills that you had while you were there. So you could say kept track of money and responsible for, you could say opened and closed store punctually. And you could also say like observed and handled shoplifters. It shows people that you are good at these skills and you can now apply these skills to other jobs. Finally, let's look at like a babysitter job. So babysitters are used to a flexible schedule, which is applicable to delivery jobs such as like Grubhub or if you deliver food somewhere. They are careful to like feed and bathe children on time, which means they can also take care of like elderly people and like animal care. And they also follow careful instructions from parents, which means they pay attention to detail, and this can be applied to like cleaning and decorating jobs. And now it's your turn. So if you have a piece of paper, something nearby, you can try to do this on your own and write down jobs that you had. Think about roles that you did while you were in that job, and then think of other jobs that might be applicable based on what roles you did and what task you did while you were there. Yep. I wanted to share with everyone, but I think I'm out of time. So we're gonna wrap up here. Thank you for your time. Are there any last questions?
No, for me, I'm okay. Thank you.
No? Okay. Well, in that case, you could contact us here. Here's all our information, the website. And yeah, that's everything for me. Thank you.